All right, here we go. February 27th. Welcome, everyone, to the February 27th Ways and Means Subcommittee. Please stand and salute the flag. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers. Here. Councilor Silvestri.
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambudo. Absent. Council President Keefe.
Here.
Here. And Chairman Visconti.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First item on the agenda is the schematic design for the New Revere High School.
Okay. So we have some people here today, and what I'd like to do is probably put aside about 15 minutes and have some public comment if people wish to come up and speak. I know we've done this in the past, and I would like to keep it. We only have an hour for subcommittee, and I would like to keep this, if you're coming up, to a 3-minute maximum, and so we can hear from as many people as possible. So with that being said, if there's any public comment regarding the high school, please come up, and let's keep it to 3 minutes. We're going to time you on this. So I know I've given some leeway last time, but I'd like to get this going. So, yes, you can come up. Thank you. Name and address for the record, please. Push the button.
Don't count that as my 3 minutes. Donna Nugent, 120 Conan Street.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so I've been watching you guys for a while. I was a teacher on a building committee, and so I have a few concerns. I hope I can get through all 6. First one is the link that was provided to me. I could not find it on the Revere website, which is very concerning to me. So where can I locate the total budget page? I want to see it. Last week, it sounded like it was over $500 million, and I understand that it was changing. Where is the figure in print, and what is presented of a figure as of today, 2/27/23? Number 2, I see one teacher on the building committee as one standard qualifier. Do you guys have the backing of the Revere local? I tried to reach the RTA. There's one teacher on your committee. How come? Number 3, are there plans to turn RHS into a charter school? Number 4, with an automobile analogy, understanding that time is money and that minds can change, it seems to warrant a discussion regarding the upkeep of a top-of-the-line BMW model of a car that you're proposing. Most people in the city keep their cars moderate, a reflection of the consumer in Revere. I'm sure you people covered that territory, but if the taxes will not be reflective of the price tag as promised by our mayor, sorry, Mr. Arrigo, then the short and long-term upkeep will be. You can be sure I was there and I lived it. How would you or the mayor address that concern in the final hour? May I go on with 3 more questions, or should I stop? Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me just see what's, okay. Our kids deserve the best is a quote from Mr. Arrigo from the last Ways and Means Committee. I do my homework. I believe that. I believe in good schools and new schools as well. I know what best means. Put Revere students in a quality Honda, not a Beamer. Sorry for the constant car analogies. with the best qualified mass certified teachers, with amazing STEM programs, writing and language labs that are cost efficient and student oriented, actual books with binding and paper in the middle, and in addition, supplemental laptops, and powwow for a focus on frameworks, Massachusetts frameworks, as you all should know what they are, and Revere students will be ready without a corporate stamp on their bum.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the best education of a lifetime.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward. Name and address.
I'm Michelle Irvin, and I'm a teacher. I'm the co-president of the
Okay.
RTA. Good evening. My name is Michelle Irvin. I am the co-president of the Revere Teachers Association. I'm here today to encourage you to vote yes to move this process forward. The reasons that we need a new building are numerous, as we are all aware, but overcrowding is one of the major issues we have. As everyone is aware, the current high school has reached its capacity in every aspect, but most notably in space. There's simply no more space to accommodate our ever-growing population. Even if we were to hire more teachers, there's no place to put them. So we have class sizes of 30, sometimes more, and it's becoming a norm. And it's going to continue to be a norm if we don't have more teachers, but in order to have more teachers, we need to have space. And so we're going to have these classrooms with large numbers of students in a space that doesn't accommodate that. Not only is this not conducive to learning, but it's also creating a really unhealthy environment at the high school, as many people have seen. A new building will alleviate the current overcrowding and allow for the small class sizes that, as we all know, research has documented, leads to better student outcomes. Attracting talented educators is another reason we need a new school, and it's a concern of ours because it's becoming more and more challenging to fill these open positions, and a new building will be an important factor in maintaining the competitiveness with our neighboring communities who are not facing the extent of this overcrowding that we are. The RTA is also confident that the City of Revere will be able to find ways to pay for this building that does not include overburdening residents or city employees. As previously stated, we need to remain competitive, and we need to remain competitive with our neighboring communities. And one of these ways to remain competitive is with wages and benefits. So I thank you for your time, and we look forward to a yes vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, please step forward.
Hi, my name is Mike Migliozzi, 39 Glover Drive. I think my main concern is purchasing Wonderland. First of all, why don't you build the school where the soccer field and the baseball field is? Why go out and spend $27 million for land that you shouldn't even be using? Everybody in Saugus and the school was built the exact same way. They knocked down the football field, the baseball field, put the school up, rebuilt the football field and the baseball field. I don't see why you're going out and spending $27 million. I don't know if everybody here voted on it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Susan Gravelisi, 43 Randall Road. Good evening, council members. I realize that I will be reiterating what has already been said by myself and by others, and that we all agree we need a new high school. We're all homeowners and taxpayers and have the same concerns about potential tax increases. Mayor Arrigo and Mr. Fisquet has informed us that there will not be a debt exclusion or a Proposition 2.5 override, and they will be providing the necessary information tonight as to how we will fund this project. There's been discussion about switching gears and using the existing site as the new location of the Revere High School. Not only will this be a greater expense It will also require eminent domain of single-family homes along East Mountain Ave, displacing families who have called Revere their home for years. We'd also have to take into consideration, where will these families go if we take their homes? The real estate market is struggling through unprecedented times of single-family home shortages, more buyers than sellers, and increasing mortgage rates. We as a city are trying to retain our current families, not displace them. And we're trying to attract future generations of families to our community. Without an accreditation, without an accredited high school, our property values will plummet and our families will leave. This project has been several years in the making. The process of applying for funding from the MSBA started in 2016, with approval in 2019 and approval of almost $200 million. The school building committee began meeting back in January 2020 with uninterrupted progress, holding bi-weekly meetings and multiple public forums, all in a transparent process. If we pass on this opportunity for funding from the MSBA, we may never get invited back into the core program, which will eliminate our chances for a new Revere High School, resulting in losing our accreditation. If we lose our accreditation, we will also lose out on state and federal funding. Our students will be denied admissions to colleges and universities. And the result of this will be our students having limited opportunities for success in the future. Our students are the future. A yes vote will ensure that they have a future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. Michelle Kelly, Derby Road. I saw earlier, I think it was in last week's journal, that litigation has been filed regarding the eminent domain land taking for the site of the new high school. I just want it acknowledged, I just want to I guess I want to know whether or not you'll be taking that into consideration when you vote this evening, that the $29.5 million for the land is not concrete and that could increase significantly, for the purchase. So right now, if you vote yes, isn't it more or less you're voting like on a blank check? You're basically issuing a blank check because we don't know how much that land is going to end up being. So I just want you to take that into consideration when you vote this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Going once? Going twice?
Well, you've heard me so many times and so many times over the years. I thank you for your patience. I know how difficult sitting here and getting pressure for people is. It's extremely difficult. Sometimes you're forced to do things that your heart doesn't want you to do, but you have to do something that your mind wants, and vice versa. And I think that's the situation that we are in today. With the mayor's assurance that the city can afford to pay for this, then I see no reason that we should not have it. And I see major reasons that we should. I was around, I've been around for a long time. So I was around when Ira was sitting in front of me in the old high school, when I think the rest of you are all too young, but at any rate, maybe John and I were together. But I remember then, the school building authority is absolutely adamant. And they came in then and said to us as we were all gathered in the auditorium, old as it was not a good place, not a healthy place, actually. And we sat there and they said to us, if you do not build a new high school, you will not have accreditation. And what will happen even then is your kids won't be able to get into college. Your value of your houses in your city will denigrate because How could they not? After all, who wants to buy a house? I'm looking forward to someday selling my house that my grandparents came to in 1906, and 5 generations of my family have lived there. But I'm the last of them, and I'm looking forward to going to the beach. To do that, I need to sell my house. Now, I'm thinking about how much my house will then be worth if, in fact, I'm sitting in a city with no accreditation to the high school. I certainly won't get 2 families in my 2-family house. So I think that there are many in my particular position who will not benefit in any way from denial of, even if they don't have children, from denial of proper accreditation for a high school. And it's just embarrassing to live in a place where I've lived my whole life, where you've all lived your whole life, and then have it be known. I'm sure we'll get headlines in the Globe. I'm sure it will be known that, well, you have no accreditation. That didn't happen. And the mayor told you that you had enough money to build it, and you said no. And why didn't you? And why do you want to build it on a swamp out behind the old high school? Because if you want to build it out there, you're going to have to tear down the current high school for fields. And what we have, and we're short right now of seats. We're jammed at the high school. You heard that. You've certainly heard that and seen that yourselves. So at some point, just at some point, councilors, I know how difficult it is, but it's necessary for every generation to take a leap of faith for the benefit of the next generation. My grandparents came here with nothing, worked hard, brought up their family, and every generation followed, all worked hard, brought up a family, did what they could, but they had an education. They had a good education. I think if I were looking for a teaching job, I certainly would never take a job in a high school that did not have accreditation. And maybe I'd even have second thoughts if it's a city that doesn't care about producing a high school. Jerry's giving me the evil eye. So,
Never to you on purpose.
I just,
Thank you.
I'll end on that note, that it calls upon us who have so benefited by so much that we have been given by the people who went before us, for us to do the same thing for the kids who follow us, for us to say to them, we really care about you, we love you, for us to say to the new young families who are moving in, don't think about going out. Stay here, stay in your house, because I've been told that, oh, I'm selling my house. No, stay here. We will have something for you. Let's give them that assurance that we care that much about them, that we care about their destiny, and we care about the destiny of everybody in this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Always tough to keep the clock on.
Here goes the
Ms.
evil
Todd.
eye.
All right. Now you got 2.5 minutes now. You have to make up for her.
Of course. Stacy Rizzo, 510 Revere Beach Boulevard, and current vice chair of the Revere School Committee. I didn't prepare anything. I know you've all heard it before, but I did some of the questions that Ms. Nugent had asked. I had responded earlier to her, but I got back late. So in case anyone had those same questions in the back of their mind, I do want to respond, and ask me if I can find them now. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. No, I just need my answers.
Okay.
Okay, her first one was as far as the budget changing from 500,000, and understand that it keeps changing. The total anticipated budget right now is $470 million.
Okay.
In December, before we got the additional funding from MSBA, 17 million, completed the value engineering and streamlined some antedated costs for environmental concerns. The number was at 499 million. Some folks won't let that number go away. The cost to the city is still projected to be 290 million. I wish it was something else, but MSBA pays the rest, and these numbers will continue to evolve downward as we actually get into the work. You should review all the presentations that are on the website from each of our meetings, and you will find all the information right there. She asked about only seeing one teacher on the building committee. There is one teacher on the board. MSBA determines the board configuration, and we must meet that. All teachers have been part of the educational program design, and groups of teachers in specialized fields have provided the input on areas specific to them. Junior ROTC, teachers for the junior ROTC area, special education for the small learning groups. Her next question was, will the Old Revere High School become a charter school? And that is absolutely not. We fought too hard to keep charter schools out of Revere, but what we are hoping to do is make this our one centralized middle school, so that would open up other seats in the elementary for our ever-changing enrollment. I couldn't figure out her car analogy. I'm sorry, I'm not good at those things. And then her last one was about accreditation. And NESAC has been telling us for over 10 years that, is that my timer? Yeah, too bad. 10 years that our high school building is inadequate. They have mentioned it in every report and said they will maintain our accreditation as long as we are working towards a new high school. The school committee and the city council are both well aware of those reports and their contents. That was not at the last hour piece of information. It was current. One last thing, if you read the Globe over the weekend, you would see the cost for the new Wakefield High School, which would house 800 students less than what we plan on housing, also without career pathways. So the number is really in sync of what other schools are doing and not far off. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that being said, what I'd like to do is probably bring Mr. Viskey up to discuss some of the numbers. I believe,
Thank you. Rich Viskey, 281 Broadway, CFO, City of Revere. Excuse me. I apologize for missing the last meeting, and the mayor did present a memorandum with some resolutions and financial plan that we plan to model to fund this high school. So I don't want to spend too much time on that plan, but basically we have established a high school stabilization trust account, which you adopted, this body, and we do have our first $1.7 million being proposed to be deposited into that. Those funds and what we propose to put into that particular trust fund will help with the ups and downs of the forecasting and the budget for the high school. As you well know, that we come before you today with some numbers to show you that this is a feasible project, but these numbers, they change daily, they change weekly, and we just got our first state aid numbers, which are represented in this forecast that I bring before you. It's in a bridge version on a one page, and I'm gonna do my best to walk through some of the handouts that I gave you today to explain the way in which we plan to pay for this high school that does not include a debt exclusion override vote. So I did give Ashley 3 PDF files, and if you can pull up maybe the debt service might be the best one. I think that's the biggest. All right, yes. So the first sheet I just want to review is a pro forma debt schedule for a high school project that would be $470 million, that a maximum grant right now is $181 million, so the city share would be $289 million. The approach that we are working with our financial advisors is to borrow temporarily the funds needed to progress the project according to schedule. So that first row on the left, next to the fiscal year, would be the amount of short-term interest that is projected as we start from fiscal year '25 and ends in fiscal year '29, basically because that's when the debt service comes in with both principal and interest. So the left-hand side is the temporary bonds and the amounts needed at this point. And then the idea would be to bond it in 3 phases. We would do our first bond sale in fiscal year '27, and that would be for $40 million. We have $2 million of interest-only payments up front, and then the amortization continues down through fiscal year 2055 at $2.78 million. The largest, the biggest part of the bond would be fiscal year '28, where we would bond $245 million. Again, we have worked with our financial advisors to come up with a schedule that defers some of the principal in the early years where we have some trouble having that new growth catch up to the debt service. And right around fiscal year '35, we have the full complement of that debt service at about $17.4 million going forward. The last bond, which would be in June of '29, that would be the bond that we would get once the project is complete, the audit is done, and we realize where we are. We'd bond that 5% holdback basically for the remainder of the fiscal year '57. So it's quite a long debt schedule. You can see on the right-hand column, it starts at about $2 million in fiscal year '25, and at maximum debt, we are at $20.5 million. This is based upon 4% interest rate on temporary borrowings and a 5% interest rate on permanent borrowings. Now, it's hard to say where we're going to be when we sell these bonds with these rates. Could be lower, it could be higher. I think 5% is a very fair assessment at this point, but if the interest rate market comes down, we'll certainly realize some savings. There is good news with the higher interest rates in that we are getting pretty good return on our cash on hand. Our investment income is through the roof, and that is also helping with the revenue portion to help fund this when we get to that point. So that's kind of a lot of information, but if anyone has any questions on the debt schedule, I'd be happy to answer those, or I can continue on to the next slide, up to the council.
Is there any questions regarding the debt schedule? I just have one regarding this.
Sure.
And based on this, this is the construction, and not to go too much into detail on the cost of the eminent domain, that is based on what number?
The eminent domain has already been bonded, and
Yes.
it's part of the debt service schedule that you'll see on the forecast that I show you as part of this.
On the number.
On the third one.
Okay.
I plan to use the third slide for that.
All right,
So the
trying to
second
make
slide,
heads, trying to make heads or tails of this as we speak. But go ahead.
development forecast would be the next one. So, and I'm sorry about the small print on some of these, but I try to keep them on one page, so it's not so you can't read them purposely, but so we have created a long-range planning committee, the mayor and I, that you saw 2 weeks ago. And a subcommittee of that, we have a long-range development, which is the chief assessor and chief of planning and community development. And we have an outside consultant that's going to help us with commercial and industrial growth. And we sat down and went over all of the potential projects in the city. I broke them into 4 phases on this forecast. The top part is the HYM development. And that, I have this going out right now, the fiscal year '33, but it goes out to '42. But again, we're really getting speculative when we try to predict what's going to happen really much after fiscal year '30. But to that, you can see the projects, the lot numbers, what's proposed to be developed there, what the new growth is expected to be in the respective fiscal years. And we thought it was important to put the estimated permitting fees in for those projects, because one of the strategies is to take half of those building fees for the HYM project alone, not all building permit fees, just for that particular project. We'd like to divert 50% of those building permit fees into our high school stabilization account. We expect it to be about 13 million in the first 5 years, so half of that would be $6.5 million that we could divert into that fund. Again, adding to the 1.7 million of free cash, you're up to about $8 million with that alone every year with free cash. Hopefully, we get about the same 6 million a year. 1.7 times 5, that's another 8 million. So the idea is to really try to put some money into that stabilization account to really try to get a good fund balance for any spikes that may come up over the fiscal years that would create a budget problem. The second part is the larger projects that are in the next 5 years. So we have a pretty good idea what those projects are. Again, they're listed out. Estimated building permit fees that come from those would be general fund building permits, which are part of the forecast on the last slide I'll show. The estimated new growth to that is subtotaled down. The third section and the fourth section become more of the planning, permitting, and speculative projects. So sum total on the bottom would show you the estimated new growth that the city would realize based upon this schedule. We'll be refining the schedule as often as we need to. That will then fold into a 20-year financial forecast, which will tell the story about how we're going to fund this high school. So on this particular spreadsheet, happy to try to answer any questions. I believe Chief Assessor is here if there's a particular question on valuation or the growth, but Tom is also here from planning, so happy to try to answer any questions on that if there's anyone that may have one.
Any questions? No questions? Continue.
Okay, so the last slide I presented is basically the colorful landscape slide, and this is what I believe everybody's kind of been waiting for, to see what exactly happens when the revenues and expenses are netted against one another. So I collapsed a lot of the categories because it would have been a very daunting spreadsheet to go over, but I think the most important part, well, the most important part is the bottom line, but second most important would be the top, which shows the tax levy year in and year out, right out till fiscal year 30. So again, for those who may not understand Proposition 2.5 and worry about the taxes and how much we're going to burden all the city residents with the taxes, we tax the levy limit right now. So we're bound by 2.5, which means we can raise the tax levy limit 2.5% from the prior year to the current year, and then the only thing we can add to that is any new growth development in the city. We just showed you the new growth development forecast, and we have it reflected on this. But we added we added one more row onto this, which is our typical new growth. So we typically get about 850,000 new growth every year. That's additions, decks, new single-family homes, new smaller type developments, swimming pools, all that kind of stuff. That's about $850,000 a year. Then we have the large non-HYM development, and then we have the HYM development. Those numbers all tie to the spreadsheet that I just showed you, and that'll give you a year in over year of what we expect our new growth to be. So as that compounds year in and year out, you can see how that tax levy limit goes up from 112 million estimated in fiscal year 24, about 156 million by the time we get to 2030. So that is our primary source of revenue that we use to balance the budget year in and year out. After that, you have your cherry sheet revenue, which is your state aid. We did just get our first governor's numbers from state aid Thursday, so I was able to incorporate them into this spreadsheet. So what you'll see there is the governor's $114 million is what we're estimated to get. The schools were the big winners with $14 million additional dollars, which is great for the schools, but that number is accounted for there. Then we have our local receipts. Our local receipts are projected to go up year in and year out, whether it's motor vehicle excise, meals tax, rooms tax, investment income, license permits, all those types of things that just go into the general fund. Those are projected out, as you can see. And then I created a row for the high school stabilization trust account. And I have that blank, and that's blank for a purpose, because as we need funds to balance the bottom line, we're hoping to use as little as possible, but those funds in that trust will help balance budgets in those early years where we may have some problems. Then we have our enterprise fund revenues, which is our water and sewer operations and our solid waste operations. And all those revenue sources basically get to the grand total of all revenues that the city realized from fiscal year '23 right out to fiscal year '30. And you can see that trajectory go up. If there's any questions on revenues or anything, happy to answer them. If not, I'll try to go right through the expenses. So what we detailed out 2 weeks ago is that we plan to be very tight stewards with our spending in general government. You can see the percentages that the mayor went over 2 weeks ago. 3% for general government, 4% for public safety, 3.5% for public works, et cetera, et cetera. So we took some fiscal year '24 numbers, which aren't finalized yet, but we picked some numbers for '24 where we think we're gonna be, and we forecast those out with those respective percentages. And we do the same for the schools, and those are our operating costs. Then you get to your fixed costs. Your fixed costs are your debt service. So your debt service that you see there, that goes up from 7 million to 9 million to 11, and eventually goes up to the 23 million, 24 million. That's all the debt rolled up. That includes the debt service schedule that was presented to you tonight. So that includes all of that, plus any other particular debt obligations that we think we may have in the meantime. So that debt service schedule, again, it's subject to change. Things happen. We might have to borrow more money, this and that, but right now we have money in there for Wonderland purchase. We have money in there for the high school construction. We have money in there for every debt obligation that is currently on the books. We have our pension and our unclassified benefits, which are basically our health insurance. I know I did come before this council earlier on, kind of gave warning shots, wanted to let people know that we may have to do some modification of benefits. We may have to do some pension extension based upon just the current market, based upon new employees in the system, et cetera, but everything that's listed here doesn't contemplate any changes. There's no assumptions of savings. There's no assumptions of anything else. The only thing that is in here is our amortization schedule for our retirement, for our pension, and our health insurance costs going up at 6%, which is, we hope it's 6%. We hope it's not more, but 6% seems reasonable to me anyway. Add in your water and sewer enterprise fund, your solid waste enterprise fund, your cherry sheet assessments, which is the money that the state charges us. They give us money, they take some money back, and all that's accounted for in here. The cherry sheet assessments are based upon those same 2024 numbers that were provided with the revenues. So total all expenditures versus total all revenues is that yellow line on the bottom. You can see right now, for fiscal year '24, we're at $2.2 million out of balance. Most of you probably know that we're always out of balance when we start the budget process, and then we go through it and we get it in balance. So I fully expect, and I can guarantee you that this will be a balanced budget when it comes before you in May when you get your budget. Everything goes forward from fiscal year '24. So even though we have a deficit in '24, we use those numbers and we roll them forward to the out fiscal years. The good news is if once we get this in balance, that should actually improve all those numbers and make it a little more in balance or even some surplus. But you do see some negatives in the bottom. We know that's there, but quite frankly, these are the best numbers that I've seen since I've been doing this, since we've been starting, because we're getting more information. I was able to get work with the financial advisors, work with all the departments, come up with a financial plan, and we're dedicated to get this school done for the city, and we're doing our best to make sure it happens. So that is what I have for you. I hope that this answers a lot of the questions. I know it's a lot of information, even though it's only 3 spreadsheets, but there's hundreds of spreadsheets that come behind these too, so it's I try my best to make it as simple and clear as possible. Always happy to answer any questions on it. So with that, thank you, and let me know if I can answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Any, with that being said, any questions from the council?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, council.
quick question. So there are 2 items on the agenda. Are we going to listen to the presentations for both items and then speak, or are we taking up each item?
The items on the agenda is long-range financial planning, which he's been doing
Okay.
all along, so it kind of
In
is
construction?
together.
Okay, so we're
Yes,
going to do it
it's-
at the end. I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
you can speak on on it. I believe the financial planning, the long-range financial planning is what he's been saying as well. So it goes into exactly what he's been saying. So it's one of the same, let's put it that way. Any questions, or anybody have any questions for Mr. Viskey? Council President Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, appreciate you putting this in front of us. I know that this is a lot of what we've been asking for, and we've had a lot of communications regarding, the cost and certainly the construction project. And I think that everyone, Mr. Dakin and the entire team has been, very forthright, and certainly there's been some contentious moments. For myself, and I may speak for some of the other councilors, one of the biggest concerns we had in that, just to continue to put out the mistruths, was making sure that even myself, I would not feel confident going forward with this project if it meant that we had to have a form of a proposition over Proposition 2.5 or an override. So I just want to make clear that you're saying to us that is not. You're very confident that it's not something that's going to be necessary.
Yeah, based upon current information and the forecasts that are here, and again, I welcome anyone to look at this forecast, challenge it, tell me where you think I'm off, tell me where you think there may be problems, and we'll adjust this. This will be adjusted year in and year out, and I think it's really important to know that in order to keep moving the chains, we need to take a vote tonight to get this in front of MSBA so they can actually give us a final project schedule. But we're going to be working on these numbers for years. We're going to come back before you next year, and the year after, and the year after, and some of my predictions may be spot on, some might be off to the good or bad, but this, as it stands right now, I don't foresee that we need a debt exclusion override. But,
And I just want to make that clear, because, there's been a lot, no one here, there's not one of the 11 council members, regardless of how they vote, that would be in favor of that, right? So we'll just wipe that off the table as any of us suggesting or expecting that. None of us are expecting that. You're not expecting that. That's not something that, we feel very confident that that's not going to be in the realm. And secondly, quite frankly, I don't think the citizens of Revere would vote for it. So it's pretty much irrelevant at this point in time. We can never predict 100 years out or 50 years out, but that's something that's pretty much irrelevant. So I really just want to stop discussing that unless it is relevant, which I don't believe it is. And the second piece is, I just want to make that comment, you kind of said it for me, is, again, I understand fully there's going to be lots of questions regarding this, and I understand fully that there's certainly some councils maybe don't feel completely comfortable, and there's members of the public that don't feel very comfortable. After 3 years of discussing it, though, I feel like I've gotten a really good amount of information. I feel a lot better now that we've kind of taken that off of the list, and I do think that it's time to either put up or shut up. And that doesn't mean that we put all of our cards on the table today, because the bond vote is actually what really comes down, and that's probably 5-6 months down the road. So there'll still continue to be more discussions when it comes to the project and how that moves forward. But at this point, in order for this project to move forward, to stop discussing any further costs, any potential cost escalations, because we keep kicking this down the road, it's just going to get more expensive. We already know that, and it's time for us to really make a decision with whatever comfort level we have. And I'm not forcing anyone to make a decision that they don't like. If you don't feel comfortable, you vote no. If you feel comfortable, you vote yes. Is it anyone excited? Oh, yeah, we love spending money. Of course not. You should ask my wife. I hate spending money, okay? I threaten her all the time about, I'm going to cut the credit card. I'm going to cancel the Amazon account. It's the same thing with myself. I do it all day long. No one likes spending lots of money, unless, of course, it's a vacation and whatnot, and you can enjoy it. Building a new school is an absolute necessity. It's the same as having clean drinking water in our city. It's the same as having good roads. It's the same as having good quality staff. It's the same as having, you name it, good parks. Part of we have to have an accredited high school. That has to happen. That's opening, that's nuts and bolts. That's opening the door. We have to have an accredited high school. To be able to think that that's not going to happen, or we might not have an accredited high school, is disturbing. I won't see the benefit. I don't know how many councilors in this chamber have kids in their schools that will see the benefit. My kids will be graduated by then. They go to our schools currently, very happy with the school system. Certainly some issues with our current high school, we know that. But we may not see the benefit, but there's a lot of the 7,000 students in our school system, and a lot of those future kids are going to see the benefit, and that's what we're here for. So I'll be making that decision. I hope that we can come to a decision to come to vote tonight, but I'll be making the decision to be voting in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council President. Is there any other members on the Ways and Means Subcommittee that would like to speak first? Council Powers, and then we'll go to Council Maravito.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Viskey, without being redundant, are you saying tonight that you do not see any question for a Prop 2.5 override in your financial plan?
As it stands right now with the plan we have and setting up the high school stabilization account and funding that up until and to the point where we hit that maximum debt service, I feel like as long as the growth forecasts out where we believe it will and our revenues grow the way they have been and what I'm seeing, I believe that we'll be able to build this.
My reason for
within-
asking that
within the
question is
levy.
when you go back to Proposition 2.5, I believe we had public safety facilities in the city that were closed. And people in those particular areas voted, if it meant an override, to keep them closed. So it's, it's something that we want to make sure, to the best of our ability, there's not in that financial plan that you're sending us now. I certainly wouldn't want to see police stations, fire stations, anything like that closed. We did it before, and we should never do it again. It's public safety, and that's the most important, one of the most important things we can offer our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Maravito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. I just want to put my view out there. So, for the past 2 years, the school building commission has been meeting. They have come up with a bunch of locations in the past to decide where the new high school will go. 2 members of the city council who are sitting here now were on that board as well. In those meetings, people were invited to discuss various locations, and they narrowed it down to 3 locations. It was the Coolidge Street, where public housing is, the existing high school site in Wonderland. The school building board voted for Wonderland, the school committee voted for Wonderland, and this honorable body voted for Wonderland. So the location is out of question. Some other topics that we discussed in these Ways and Means subcommittees are the many benefits to building a new high school, the tech and science advantages, and the labs that will be built, the smaller classrooms this will create, the accreditation it will give the school. The benefits outweigh so many other things that we have voted on in the past. It's the benefits that the children of Revere are going to see through providing them this school. We also spoke about Proposition 2.5, because there's so many rumors out there, including my dad is one of them. He heard it at the coffee shops. You guys are going to raise our rent $500. You crook, you crook. You know, this is my own dad. So people hear things in the coffee shops, and we need to debunk them. My dad doesn't go on the internet. He doesn't even know how to use the internet. The fact of the matter is, we've also discussed if we were to do a Proposition 2.5 override, the voters of Revere would have a say. They would have to vote for that override if that was the intention, or if that was what we would have to do to pay the bills. So at the end of the day, the voters would have the say. But more importantly, we had conversations about cost escalation and how it impacted the price of the new high school from last year to this year. And one of the examples I discussed was in 2006, how Newton High School wanted to build a new high school for 143 million, I think it was. They waited until 2006. The price went up to 150 million. And then they waited until, back then there was a recession. They waited until the recession officially came to an end. And the price came to 200 million in 2009. And it was the face of controversy throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Everyone couldn't believe that Newton High School was going to pay $200 million for a high school. Here we are in 2023, and this school project is going to cost us $500 million, but MSBA is paying a portion of it, and it's going to leave us paying $296 million, I believe. What? 289, I apologize, 289 million. With that said, as a city council, sure, we have a fiscal responsibility, and that's an expectation to our constituents and the people of Revere. But we also have a responsibility to lead the city in the right financial direction. And when you're looking to the future, in 20 years, we're going to say, if we're still talking about the high school, we're going to say, why didn't we vote for the project right there and then? But hindsight is 20/20. So that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Zambudo.
Geez, I wish I would get applause. I never seem to get any.
Nobody likes you. I'm only kidding.
Thank you, Mr. CFO, for your presentation. I got to say, I'm a little skeptical of the numbers, not just your numbers, but all the numbers we've heard. We had a proposal out there, it came back $120 million more. Now we're on projections here, and you know, I trust you know a lot more than I do. I guess what I want to do is go back to this memorandum that you weren't here for, because I had a little debate with the mayor, and some of it was a little contentious, and I apologize for that. But one of the points I tried to make was that a 4% cut in 4% increase in public safety is in fact a cut with the inflation rate as it is now. And I was chastised for that, but I'm correct in that, I believe. And so my question to you at this point is, are these percentages still intact? Is this what we're preparing? We're planning to only increase government 3% and public safety 4%. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what we're modeling this forecast after those percentages. And,
Right. No, that's fine. I just wanted to clear
but
it up, make
just to
sure
be
that's
clear-
the case, because I have fears, number one, of public safety, and number two, that the services are going to be in trouble. And that's a debate for another time, and that's just my point.
All the collective bargaining agreements have been settled for all the unions, so we have real salaries for everybody, so
Okay.
that's the forecast at this point, but
And let me ask you,
Sure.
on the ETP funds, is it legal to take half of that money for the school building fund?
I would defer to
Yeah.
those who would know better than
Well,
me. I don't believe we'd come before you with illegal
No,
thoughts,
I-
but I'm not going to be on record to say I know.
Hold on. Not intentionally saying it's
No, I know.
illegal.
I'm giving you the
questioning-
honest answer. I
All right,
don't.
Let me rephrase.
Okay.
I simply wanted to know if that was proper. I don't mean that you're trying to propose anything illegal. It was my intent that I didn't believe it was. And I've been around here a while, and I thought there were strict limits to how that money could be spent. I could be wrong. It's a small amount of money, and it's not relevant to this whole.
I promise that if it's illegal, we will take it out.
Okay, well, that's
you
good. Illegal was the wrong word. Again, I apologize. I just meant improper, and I didn't think it was proper use of that money. You really answered the two questions that I had a concern about, was the 3% and the 4%, and I have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah, no one's saying it's going to be easy, Counselor, but
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna stick to the plan.
Right, okay, well, that's the key. It's not going to be easy, and some of us are very skeptical that it can be done, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counsel, if there's no other questions from the subcommittee, then we'll start off with counselors. We're going to start off with Counselor Rizzo, to my left.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I very rarely write things down, but there's been so many numbers tossed around over the last however long, I just had to. First thing I'd like to remind people is that this, we are a city council. We're not voting on curriculum. We're voting on a construction project. It's pretty much what we're voting on. As far as space goes, and I understand, that with more students, you need more space. Back in 2016, we had a $2.5 million bond that was all set. At that time, myself and former Superintendent Paul Dakin had slated this bond to remodel the old McKinley, move the business offices over there, and then obviously turn that into classroom space. That never happened, so, but I still think it's a viable alternative. On January 23rd, we heard from you, Rich, very honest and open. That was just last month. Layout plans on a PowerPoint presentation titled Long Range Financial Planning. Last meeting, some of us were called fearmongers. As a reminder, part of the ways that we were to fund this project at that meeting included what was referred to as revenue opportunities. One was a property tax debt exclusion vote. Okay, that was in the presentation, so I don't think any of us who mention it are saying anything out of school. Adopting the Community Preservation Act, which would add an additional 3% to our property taxes on top of the 2.5% limitation that we have, as currently allowed by statute. A review of our fees, fines, licenses, and permit fees, monthly trash fees, a move to GIC from existing health insurance for employees' health insurance, and finally, by decreasing the number of full-time employees wherever possible. Those were all in the presentation. So we're not crazy by bringing these things up. Just this week, as expected, a lawsuit was filed, many of us knew that, against the city for the land taking at Wonderland. Their attorney states, and this is, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been already in the newspaper, on a low end, they're looking at $40 million, on a high end, $100 million additional on top of the $29 million that has already been slated. Doesn't mean they're going to get it, but this is what they're looking for, and this is what we're exposed to. Then at the City Council Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting back on February 13th, just 2 weeks ago, the mayor said he was giving a 30,000-foot level view where we were reminded once again of the city's ever-changing share of the cost of this project. In March of 2022, not even a full year ago, the city's share of the burden was $230 million. In December of 2022, our share was $338 million. Now the latest figures as of December of 22, the city share is $290 million. And apparently part of this lower cost was now attributed to a reduction in cost assumptions related to soil handling, for which our own Conservation Commission does not even have a complete handle on as of today. Fact. In addition to Rich's comments and revenue generating sources, the mayor laid out either a new or additional options that include a presumption of permit fees generated from HYM, which again are unknown, 50% of some unknown number of foreclosures, whatever that is, ETP funds, and 50% of the Community Improvement Trust Fund payments. These trust fund payments are supposed to be used, they're supposed to be directed to the areas of impact where these projects are being completed that require them to contribute to the Community Improvement Trust Fund. Now, I don't know how the ward councilors feel about that. I know if it was my ward and there was a project that got special approval and money went to the Community Improvement Trust Fund, I'd want to mitigate impacts to my residents, to my constituencies. And lastly, to cap city spending, which I fully support capping certain expenses and hiring only based on need. But how do you cap, in particular, I'm just going to pick one, how do you cap public safety when our population is growing exponentially and we someday, whenever that is, want to staff a new Point of Pines fire station? How are we going to cap spending? How realistic is that? I mean, we're going to open up the Pine Station, we're not going to open it up. I don't know how we're going to do it. I think it's irresponsible thinking and really trying to understand it in a way after sitting here for a long, long time, listening to financial explanations. I just don't get it. In my opinion, these numbers relative to the cost and the revenues to be generated are all moving targets. We are possibly in one of the worst economies since the late 70s relative to inflation, with a looming recession that none of us know if it's coming or not. The mayor's financial plan and assumptions are shaky at best and are like a house of cards. You pull one card out and the entire house of cards collapses. So, Mr. Chairman, for all those reasons and the reasons I've stated in the past, as much as we all of us up here have stated we want a new high school, but you can't have everything you want if you don't have the money for it. The city's gone out to bond for numerous projects. We've got a new DPW facility being built, again, the Pines Fire Station slated. We've got a lot of other things. So, Mr. Chairman, I just can't see a path forward right now with the numbers and under the set of circumstances that have been laid out before us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor.
Can I-
Any other comments?
Can I comment on just a few of those?
Sure. We're going to head into the council meeting. If that's okay with you, Council President, can we do that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
have no-
I'd
that's fine.
rather
Thank you.
move forward with this, so. No, we're gonna continue on right now.
I just want to address some of those things, and thank you for those comments, and I certainly appreciate anybody looking at these numbers and challenging them and making sure they are the best numbers possible. But you're right. The one thing you're totally right on is these numbers change constantly. In order for me to give a snapshot to the council, to give a presentation on affordability and how we can do it, I had to stop the clock and had to present it, and there are certain assumptions in there. Some may be unrealistic or unreasonable, as you may say, and like I said, it's going to be a tough sledding. So certainly public safety, we don't take it lightly. 4%, I can explain some of the strategies to do that, but as older, higher paid people retire, we bring in younger people, they make less money. There's always an attrition part that helps keep that percentage. Will we be able to hit 4% every year for the next 5 years? Time will tell, but we will adjust it, and then we'll have to adjust accordingly. The forecast shows that we do become getting a pretty healthy surplus at some points, but again, they're all based upon assumptions being made, so. Again, I welcome people to tell me why they're wrong, so we can refine them and make them well. But just to go back to that original presentation, I realized it was a bit of a shock and awe presentation because I was asked to come out here with these giant figures that we were talking about initially and the interest rates and such. So what I try to do more educationally than anything is kind of lay all the options out there. I don't want anyone to think that that presentation was led to believe that we had to do every single thing there. And it actually worked out well because there was a lot of feedback that really told us what was off the table, what was reasonably to be considered, et cetera. And I still stand by a lot of those things in that forecast. And as a matter of fact, if things go bad, those will be some of the things that we will have to come back. I mean, if we can stay with our current health plan and not go into the GIC and everybody knows we have a fabulous health plan, that would be great. It helps keep employees, it helps maintain a good, healthy work environment. But there are 480,000 people in the Commonwealth on the GIC, so it's a pretty competent plan too. And it's my job to bring it before you that there's savings that could be had by looking at the possibilities of going into it. So when I come up here, I don't come up here as a voting member. I don't really come up here as a politician. I come up here with facts to try to give everybody a good idea of what we can do to help make this a reality. So I'm happy as anybody that we don't have to execute on many of them, but I still think things like the CPA should be explored and considered. I still think that we have to look at health insurance costs because they're they're astronomical. We have to look at these things, and if things go bad, we may have to come back and research them, but if things go good, then, and we can lay off them, that would be ideal. But I just wanted to make it clear that that wasn't meant to be. We have to do all these things to do the high school. I just wanted people to understand that these are the revenue enhancements and the expenditure cuts that we can do to squeeze that gap. So I just want to make that clear.
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, through you, that was not any way as I mean, I appreciate your honesty. When you came up on January 23rd, you laid out possibilities. So I just want to make that clear to you. I think you're a consummate professional. You're just giving us the numbers, and we've got to decide from there. So
I thank you, and I just want to try to be as clear as possible to everybody on that stuff. Thank you.
Any other comments from any other counselors? Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I had mentioned to the mayor several weeks ago, and Councilor Sereno confirmed this with me, that we have a concern about community trust fund money. You know, for my ward, his ward, the other 3 wards. And I didn't agree with the 50% number. You know, I think that should be reduced. You know, my number is 35%, but not to utilize any funding prior to FY '26, and leave all that funding prior to that available, 100% of it available to the counselors that need something done in their ward. So,
Yeah, and I think that was something that was meant to be talked about. Again, it's community investment trust. I don't think there's a bigger investment in the community than a new high school. So I think sharing some of those funds personally, I think is a good idea. I don't know if the percentage should be 50 or 35, but I mean, some of you ward councilors are blessed with large amounts of community investment, and there's other councils that get zero. So putting some of those dollars toward the high school, I think is prudent personally. So, and I'm speaking as a person who has, 3 houses in the city. I put 2 kids through the high school. My grandmother lives here. My whole family lives here. So if I could speak as a citizen, I don't think it's a ward trust. I think it's a community trust. So I think there should be some sharing. And I can differ in opinion, but that's my feel.
I disagree with you because
That's fine.
the buildings are being built in our wards, and we're the
No, I
ones that are
understand.
being,
I put on my citizen hat
hampered
for a
by it.
second.
And now those monies are coming to our ward councilors.
But I'm sure
To
it-
utilize, and it's not a zero that we don't want any of it used.
No,
You know,
and I think
the
that's
way
why
you
we're here
said
to.
it is you're gonna use it one way or the other.
No.
But there's a percentage, and I don't mind some of it being used later down the road.
I think there's a compromise to be had somewhere
Well,
there, for
this is
sure.
my compromise, down to 35%.
I heard it.
You know,
I'll check
Point
with
of
my- I'll check
information,
with my
Mr.
boss.
Chairman, point of information.
Okay,
So
state your point.
the CFO came up with a pathway for payment because we suggested it. Each and every one of us said, how are we going to pay for this? Come up with a payment. Over and over again, the CFO said, I welcome solutions. If you don't disagree, that's fine. If you disagree, give me some line items. Tell me what you want. What do you want to see? So at the end of the day, this is not permanent. So if anyone on this council has a better solution or wants to cut the 50% to 10%, he's open for suggestions. The mayor's aide even wrote an email. Any suggestions, any concerns, please notify me. So this isn't set in stone. So just a point of information.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, I guess I'm gonna speak if I'm the last one to, I'm sorry, Councilor Cogliandro, my apologies.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a question about conservation hasn't been answered yet, and I know that's not your forte, but wondering if someone can. In talks with the Conservation Commission, there's talks of that, the land is finally starting to heal itself over at Wonderland. We may have to put water tanks in this facility, and we may have to pay to treat them. I also know that we've hired a third-party company to help with this. Is there any more information that you can provide on that?
I would defer to Brian Dakin or somebody who could speak better to that than I could. I certainly don't have any answer on that.
I didn't think you did, Rich. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being here tonight, Brian, appreciate it. So again, on the conservation side, I think we had discussed this last meeting, and I don't think we were too clear on what was actually going on, but do we have any idea of the challenges we're going to face on the conservation side? I was led to believe by Conservation Commission that, again, the land is healing itself, that there's water there that we may have to store and treat, and that'll be another cost on the city, in that there's a third-party company involved, and I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to impact this project, but if that's true, that'll be another line item we might have to add. So I'm just curious to know about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so there is the third-party peer review consultant that Concom hired, hopefully is going to be engaged soon. Unfortunately, just takes payment up front to have those peer reviews happen. That money was approved. That's sort of the final act of the $2 million feasibility study that was allocated a few years ago. There was money there to pay for that. From a estimating point of view and a design point of view, myself and the project team, we feel that we've made conservative assumptions on how that site is going to need to be mitigated and how stormwater and other environmental factors will be handled. We think the pricing that we've put in front of you captures that, and I hope that as we get through the permitting process, but right now it's sort of, I'm not going to call it at a standstill, but until that peer review comes back, we won't learn much. And there'll be another hearing. The project will be at that hearing. The design professionals on the environmental side will be there. And then during the design development phase, we'll translate the opinions of Concom and other permitting entities into a more specific design. It'll be priced again at the end of design development. And we have confidence that the pricing that we've carried can cover the results of that process. But like any development, especially development of this size, there's certain items, scope items, that we don't know are going to have to be there till we have commitments, permits, and orders of condition in hand. So we think we're well positioned to go through it, but there's no way to get real answers on that other than proceed forward.
Thank you. I also, I hate to keep harping on this eminent domain issue, but just a question for the CFO. Are these numbers based on the bond for $29.5 million? Are there numbers that, you know, if the price is raised, let's just say, and I know that you guys are confident, I understand that, but, you know, there is something going on and we need to pay attention to it. So does this reflect anything else but $29.5 million for the eminent domain?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I ask Brian Dakin to come up, and I just needed to ask him a question, please? So Ms. Gravelisi got up and spoke about if we put the new high school at where the old high school is in the field. I'm hearing conflicting stories. Do we take East Mountain Ave as eminent domain, or we don't have to take anybody by any houses by eminent domain?
So that the answer to that question is tied to the biggest risk of a potential high school at the existing site. And it's that Ericola Park is a park, subject to the state's Article 97 process, which is basically a permitting process. It's another item that if we were to build there, and when we were considering building there, one of the initial year-and-a-half long processes on the permitting side would be getting the state to sign off on relocation of that park. It has to go all the way to the State House, has to vote on a bill, there needs to be sponsors for the bill. If the results of that came back as that park could be replaced one-to-one square footage-wise, meaning there'd be a survey, and the exact square footage of that park would then have to be put back after the existing building's demolished. If it's one-to-one, it can fit, there would not need to be any eminent domain. If during that process, it came back as it needs to be replaced 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1, then the city would already have a construction project moving forward. You'd be on the hook to rebuild a park, and if it's any bigger, if that state process results in it being any bigger than a 1-to-1 swap, you would need to go get land. The only way to get that land, in our opinion, was to expand the site. So the answer is, could it fit there? If the state Article 97 process allowed a one-to-one swap, yes, no eminent domain. However, you'd have to start that process to get that answer. And if it came back as you need to replace it 2-to-1, or 1.5-to-1 as far as area goes, you would then need to go find that space in the neighborhood.
Point of information,
State your point.
we've had many projects. We had to move parkland. We've done the Hill School, for example. We had to redo the fields in another place. This process happens all the time. It's usually one-to-one. I'd be shocked if it was 1.5-to-1. Almost never with Article 97. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other, Councilor McKenna, anything else? Sure.
I'd like to read something before the initial vote.
Sure.
Thank you.
The floor is yours. Okay. Do you have a?
I just wanted to bring a point of clarification as to the Article 97 question that was brought up. I'm Tom Skralski, the Chief of Planning and Community Development for the city. Prior to this role in another municipality, I worked on an Article 97 swap. And actually, if you think of property rights as a bundle of sticks, one of those pieces of the bundle is just easement rights, rights to pass through. So we orchestrated an Article 97 swap because we took the easement rights for a new housing development. And we took 22,000 square feet, I want to say, just of easement rights, rights to pass through, not rights to own the property. And the state actually required us to make a 2-to-1 swap in full parkland. And so that's really the uncertainty that's involved. I think the counselor's right. In most cases, it would be a 1-to-1 swap. But just like the uncertainty that we're offered with the eminent domain value at the end of the day, that is an uncertainty. We're ultimately at the whims of a bureaucrat at the state that tells us what we can or cannot afford here.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of uncertainties right now, and we have to decide on which one's the best to deal with. But I agree.
Right, and we're in schematic design, so every single time a city council votes on schematic designs, they're dealing with a host of uncertainties, which I think the development team here is accounting for.
Which is making it hard for us as a city council because of the uncertainties, obviously, with the unknowns and funding it. But I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you. I was going to read this before the vote. I'm going to read it now. I feel I wear two hats on this council. One of them is a former teacher for 33 years. During my time as a teacher, I was involved when, in 2014, we were awarded one of the best urban schools in the district. What this award did for our students and our outstanding education they received from their teachers gave many of the opportunities to get into prestigious institutions with 4 years of free tuition. The city also thrived and everyone wanted to send their kids to Revere. Our attendance rose to great heights. I was very proud and honored to be a teacher at the Revere Public School System. I witnessed what a great school system can do for a city and its students. My second hat I wear is as an elected official for Revere. The vote of confidence to elect me by the people for now 8 years and to represent them and the city of Revere is to always make the right, heartfelt decision, which I feel I have always done. Wearing these two hats has made it very difficult at times for me to make the decision that I believe would be the right one. This decision that I make tonight is probably one of the most difficult decisions I have made on this council. I have given it much thought, have spoken to many people, and have agonized over this at times. It wasn't made lightly. I believe going forward there are too many unanswered questions. I feel the hat I wear tonight is for the people of Revere, my constituents, and I would not want to burden them with the cost of this whole project. My passion for teaching, the students and my colleagues, I don't hold lightly. but with inflation, a so-called recession may be coming. The uncertainty of the legal process caused by eminent domain, the interest rates increasing, et cetera, et cetera. I believe Revere cannot afford putting this high school at the Wonderland site. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council McKenna. Okay, I guess I'll end in my comments. You know, being on the building committee for the past 3 years, it's given me a time to reflect the process. And there've been a lot of meetings, a lot of hours put in by a lot of people in this room and a lot of people outside this building. And I guess that's what's tough, you know, because we've gotten to this point, and now that we're at a point where we need to make some decisions. My frustration and my hesitation comes with making decisions that have been these last few months that really came with numbers that were not correct, okay? We were giving numbers throughout this process, and I also was on the construction, the committee that selected the construction manager. That also looked at the numbers that we provided them, okay? When we chose Consigli. They saw the budget. And then we go in and the budget continues to move. But it continues to move drastically after we made a decision on eminent domain. And that's a problem I have. And it's something that I have a difficult time getting over. Because I think if the numbers were at that, if we were provided the numbers prior to the eminent domain vote, the Wonderland site would have never been a chosen site. And I know that because I was the deciding vote. So, and that's to say that I voted for Wonderland. But I voted for Wonderland based on numbers that were incorrect. And I can't get over that, unfortunately. I can't go over that hump. And I know, based on the construction cost, if these are where the construction numbers are, well, that's fine, I guess. But now, based on those numbers, I know for certain that the Wonderland site will assist quite a bit when and if it's developed, okay, with paying down the note. And not to get into the eminent domain price, but I act on the side of caution all the time. This is not my money, but I'm acting like it is, because if it is my money, I couldn't take that chance. And that's how I feel. I said, if this was my own, I put myself and my own money always at first and say, if I was to do this, would I take this chance with my own money at Wonderland? The answer to that is no. So if I have to do that, and I am being fiscally responsible, okay, with the city's money, I can't make that decision to move this schematic design forward at the Wonderland site. And that's just me being in the finance world. I do it for a living. I've done it for 30 years. And I just feel that the risks at the Wonderland site outweigh the positives. And that's just my opinion. So I'm going to end it on that. I think we've gone through this committee. We've had multiple meetings. I think it should be voted out. I think I have some people that would like to see it voted out. And I ask for a roll call from the subcommittee to roll it out, to vote on this, please.
Shall the Ways and Means Subcommittee report out Council Order 22-342 with a favorable recommendation for approval by the City Council? Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Silvestri?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
No.
No. Council President Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Visconti?
No.
No. This matter will be reported out of committee with a favorable recommendation for adoption.
Thank you. 5-minute recess?